The stone courtyards of Cambridge University have hosted some of the most rigorous intellectual debates in human history. For centuries, scholars here have interrogated the laws of physical science alongside the ultimate questions of human existence. In 1669, Sir Isaac Newton assumed the Lucian chair of mathematics. He codified the laws of motion and gravity, and he viewed these mathematical discoveries as direct evidence of a highly intelligent creator. Exactly 300 years later, that same chair was held by Stephen Hawking. Hawking mapped the mechanics of black holes, and he used his understanding of gravity to argue that a creator is entirely unnecessary. Two brilliant minds, separated by 3 centuries, occupying the exact same academic seat, yet arriving at diametrically opposed conclusions. This raises a precise question. Did the intervening 300 years of advancing science render the concept of God logically obsolete? The dominant assumption in the modern era is that humanity faces a binary choice. You can align yourself with the rigorous evidence of science, or you can accept the theology of religion. However, this perceived conflict rests on a severe misunderstanding of what scientific laws actually do and what they are entirely incapable of explaining. To resolve this, we will divide the argument into 2 distinct camps. Perspective A, representing scientism and atheism, and Perspective B, which argues for a complementary science that includes an agent creator. We will test these 2 competing worldviews without relying on theological assumptions. We will use strict logic, historical data, and the established philosophy of science. Resolving this contradiction reveals exactly how we process truth and determines how we understand our actual place and purpose in the universe. Let us start with Perspective A. Its core premise is that the scientific method is the exclusive and only reliable tool for discovering truth. This position is formally known as scientism. Scientism is the philosophical belief that science can, at least in principle, explain everything in existence. It is important to note this is a philosophy about science, not a scientific finding itself. We see this philosophy in the opening of Carl Sagan's famous series, Cosmos, where he stated, "The cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be." Stephen Hawking echoed this sentiment in his book The Grand Design, claiming philosophy is dead, and scientists have become the sole bearers of the torch of discovery. There is a fatal logical flaw here. Neither Sagan's nor Hawking's statements are verifiable scientific data. You cannot prove through a laboratory experiment that the physical cosmos is all that exists. They are simply expressing their own philosophical beliefs. Perspective B offers a strong counterargument. Science is an incredibly powerful tool for analyzing the physical world, but it possesses strict inherent explanatory limits. Consider an analogy involving a baked cake submitted to a team of the world's top scientists. The biochemists analyze the protein structures, the physicists break down the fundamental particles, and the mathematicians map the behavior of those particles. These methods perfectly explain the physical composition and the mechanics of the cake. They tell us exactly what the cake is made of and how its ingredients interact. But suppose we ask the scientists why the cake was made. Without input from the person who baked it, the best scientific instruments in the world cannot detect whether it was made for a birthday, a wedding, or a retirement party. The conclusion is that science is perfectly equipped to explain mechanism and structure. However, it is entirely unequipped to explain ultimate purpose and meaning, or personal agency. Perspective A shifts to psychology, classifying belief in a creator as a harmful psychiatric delusion. Richard Dawkins explicitly frames religion this way, defining it as a persistent false belief held in the face of strong contrary evidence. This traces back to the psychiatrist Sigmund Freud, who argued that religion is merely a comforting fairy tale, an illusion invented by humans to avoid facing the harsh realities of a cold universe. Perspective B cross-examines this claim by looking at actual, peer-reviewed psychiatric data regarding the impact of belief on mental health. This chart shows the correlation between religious involvement and mental well-being, based on research cited by Andrew Sims. It demonstrates a strong positive link between belief and lower rates of depression, faster recovery times, and higher life satisfaction. Labeling belief as a medical delusion directly contradicts the scientific consensus on human mental health. We can also take Freud's psychological logic and apply it in reverse to analyze the motivations behind atheism. If a creator does exist, atheism offers its own profound psychological comfort to the individual. In many ways, it acts as a powerful escape mechanism. The specific psychological comfort of atheism is the relief of believing there is no ultimate moral accountability after death. It is the solace of thinking that our betrayals, greed, and cowardice will never be judged by a higher authority. Psychological critiques of belief are philosophically neutral. They cut equally in both directions and completely fail to physically prove or disprove the actual existence of God. Perspective A relies heavily on a historical argument that God is merely a placeholder, an idea invented by ancient people to explain physical phenomena they did not understand. This is known as the God of the gaps. The logic assumes that as advancing scientific knowledge fills in the gaps of our understanding, the need for a creator continuously shrinks until it disappears entirely. Perspective B counters this by showing that the creator described in biblical texts is not a gap filler for the unknown. He is presented as the author of the entire system, both the parts we understand and the parts we do not. Treating a creator and scientific laws as competing theories is a profound logical error that philosophers call a category mistake. A category mistake occurs whenever things belonging to one specific category are incorrectly presented as if they belong to another. We can prove that multiple types of explanations can be true simultaneously by asking a simple question: why is this kettle boiling? The scientific explanation is that the water boils strictly due to the transfer of heat energy from the flame through the copper base, agitating the molecules until they reach the boiling point. The personal agency explanation is that the water boils because I intentionally desire a cup of tea. Both of these explanations are 100% rational. They are both true, and most importantly, they do not conflict. In fact, both are entirely necessary for a complete understanding of the event. Applying this logic to the universe, God does not compete with science as an explanation, any more than Henry Ford competes directly with the laws of internal combustion as an explanation for the motor car. Discovering the scientific mechanism behind how something works does not invalidate or replace the existence of the agent who created it. This brings us to Perspective A's ultimate claim regarding the universe itself. In his later published work, Stephen Hawking made a highly specific statement attempting to eliminate the need for a creator. He explicitly wrote, "Because there is a law like gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing." We must diagnose the philosophical flaws in this specific statement, a problem logicians strictly call logical incoherence. Logical incoherence means a statement contradicts its premises, entirely rendering it meaningless. The first contradiction is within the wording itself. A physical law like gravity is clearly something. If gravity exists to do the creating, the universe did not come from nothing. The second contradiction is that stating the universe created itself assumes the universe already existed in order to do the creating. It is a circular impossibility. Perspective B argues that mathematical and physical laws only describe behavior. They possess zero creative or causal power of their own. To visually demonstrate this, consider a game of snooker. Newton's laws allow us to calculate the exact trajectory and velocity of the balls, but those mathematical laws cannot strike a single ball. Movement requires a player with a cue. This chart shows a bank account ledger with a balance of 0. If we leave the account alone, the strict laws of arithmetic will apply forever. 0 plus 0 equals 0. The laws of arithmetic can describe a financial transaction perfectly once it happens, but they cannot generate money on their own. They require an agent to make a deposit. Attributing independent creative power to physical laws is a mathematical fiction. The existence of structural rules points directly back to the absolute necessity of an initial creator who wrote them. The philosophy of scientism forces a false dichotomy. It demands that humanity must make an absolute choice between the rigorous discoveries of science and the existence of God. By testing this through logic, the deduction is clear. Scientific laws perfectly describe the regularities of the universe, but they do not and cannot explain its origin. Discovering the mechanical rules of an engine does not eliminate the need for the engineer who designed it. In fact, understanding the complexity of the mechanism usually increases our admiration for the author. This is exactly why the historical pioneers of science, from Kepler to Newton, viewed their discoveries as uncovering the genius of a creator, not disproving him. True science and rational belief in an agent creator do not conflict. Instead, they lock together, providing a comprehensive and complementary picture of reality. Science is an exceptional tool for understanding exactly how the universe works, but we must look to agency to understand why we are here in the first place.